It is showtime. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kenny Gould. I am the founder of Hop Culture, the creative director of Untapped at Hop Culture Ken on Instagram, and I am the host of Virtual Happy Hour right here on YouTube. Today, I am joined by the co-founder of one of my favorite breweries, Jake Schinker from Eagle Park Brewing and Distilling in beautiful Milwaukee. Also here with me today is Joel Frieders, aka Hop Smash on Instagram. He's the man. Great personality. He runs public policy and strategic partnerships for Hope for the Day, which is a nonprofit organization creating conversations around proactive suicide prevention and mental health awareness. I didn't memorize that. I had that written down, but that doesn't change the fact that it is an incredible organization. Along with Eagle Park and several other partners, Hope for the Day launched Things We Don't Say, a beer industry initiative to raise money and awareness around mental health destigmatization, specifically in the beer industry. Just like Black is Beautiful or the All Together campaign, brewers make a specific Things We Don't Say beer and donate a portion of the proceeds to mental health initiatives. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jake and Joel.
Hello. How's it going?
What's up, gentlemen? What are we drinking this evening? I guess that's the first question.
Jake, go first.
I got our Czech the Run, Czech Pilsner. Nice and crisp on a hot Wisconsin day.
Ooh. Joel, what do you got? Some lemon water?
I am drinking soda water and lime. I have a show this evening, and I know that people are very superstitious when they perform, but it's been a global pandemic since I've had a live performance. So I'm not drinking alcohol until I take the stage, and I'm not touching a wet glass with my left hand.
And that's how you warm up?
That's just one of my superstitions. And then I also look at pictures of Jake before I warm up.
How could you have a badge?
Common practice.
You know?
See?
Wait a minute. This begs the question. Before we get into it, what show are you doing, and where are you?
I am at the Law Office Pub and Music Hall in beautiful downtown Yorkville, Illinois, which is 45 minutes southwest of Chicago. Today we have a brewery from Peoria, Illinois, that participated in the Things We Don't Say IPA Craft Beer for Mental Health project that Jake started. And they are called Bearded Owl, and they are tapping a release of their version of the beer. And then we're joined by one of the first shows or first artists to play at the Law Office Pub and Music Hall since the pandemic kind of started to fizzle out. The Artisanals are here, and then I'm just opening up. I am a recovering musician, so I'm just going to do about 25, 30 minutes of instrumental riffage to get the people ready. And then we'll start cracking some beers and introduce the Artisanals and get back to regular life, kind of.
That's great. So I was totally joking about you drinking lemon water, but you're kind of drinking lemon. You're drinking lime water.
It's soda water, yes. What can I say? I'm an adult.
That's awesome. Cool. I'm drinking, what is this? Sakura from Pure Project. It's beautiful. It's tasty.
Ooh.
It's nice.
I love their branding.
Me too. Cool. Well, let's talk about the project. I guess before we talk about the project, I don't want to take for granted that anyone watching knows what or where Eagle Park is. Jake, I feel like as the co-founder, you'd probably be the best person to speak to that one. Can you tell us a little bit about the brewery and when it started and how you got into the game? Oh, Jake's frozen.
He looks so stoic.
Yeah, he does. At first I thought he was just thinking really pensively, but I think he's frozen.
That's
all
adorable, though. I wanted to get a screenshot of that.
Definitely known for.
Oh, he's back. Jake, you got to start over, man.
Am I back?
You didn't hear anything.
Yeah, you froze
from scratch.
Yeah, we were saying funny things about you, but nice things, but funny. But now you're back, so we'd love to hear it.
Oh no, he froze again.
Oh, he froze again.
It's the Milwaukee internet.
So Eagle Park Brewing was, oh boy.
You're good.
Are we good now?
I think
Sweet.
so.
Eagle Park Brewing and Distilling was started 5 years ago. So now with our most recent expansion, we have distribution through almost all the state of Wisconsin, and then we do a couple other shipments to other states across the country, which has been fun lately, kind of get our beer in more hands. Recently added the distilling aspect over the past year, so we've been slowly getting into that. Kind of our end goal with that is going to be bourbon, but obviously that's a couple years out. Definitely known.
Joel.
Hi, my name is Joel. I'm a Scorpio. I like long walks on the beach and fluffy white pillows. I work for Hope for the Day. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Chicago, Illinois. We focus on mental health education as a form of proactive suicide prevention. I was introduced to this guy, Jake, through my friend Nicole, who works for Malt Europe, malting company. In November, myself and my friend Trevor Rose Hamblin from Old Irving Brewing in Chicago, we're giving a presentation on mental health in the craft beer industry for the Iowa Craft Brewers Association. And she was in attendance, and she hit us up and said, let's talk about doing something to kind of bring attention to this topic just in the craft beer industry. And within the first 15 minutes, we had an idea that we wanted to try to find a way to get people in the industry to talk about their mental health, to maybe talk about their relationship with alcohol, and then see how we can get mental health resources in front of people. Because as a guy who simply works for a mental health nonprofit because I give a shit because I lost too many friends to suicide, I learned that one of the biggest problems that we have outside of talking about it, which is why we made the beer, but the second biggest problem we have is that we don't know where to go when we have a freaking problem. So number one, you got to pierce the silence. And then number two, you got to give people a funnel to walk into to figure out how to reach out for help when you need it. And it's not just something where you're asking somebody to go see a therapist right now. It's like, nah, if you have something that's been eating at you and it's been kind of shaking your bottle, and the things that you do to make yourself feel more normal aren't actually helping, well, maybe it's time to actually seek help with a professional. So we're trying to be adult about this because I know you all know, but nobody really talks about their brains in the craft beer industry. And I think the reason why we don't is that we're afraid of what people might think of us. So rather than allowing that to continue, I said, screw it. Myself and my friend Ryan run this page called Hop Smash on Instagram, where we make fun of ourselves and we enjoy the craft beer community on the whole. And we realized that the reason why nobody's talking is that nobody started the conversation. So thankfully, my friend Nicole from Malt Europe was like, yo, I know exactly who I want to hit up first. And she called Jake, and then I think she put him in a chokehold, and his face looked pretty similar to how he looked before when he was frozen. And then he said yes, and then we met, and we had a conversation, and I felt like I've known Jake. And all those guys, Jackson and Max, like I've known them forever. And the concept went from a decent idea to let's shoot for a dozen to holy shit, there's 200 breweries in 8 countries talking about mental health with a beer.
Wow. So I know there's, obviously conversation does wonders for destigmatization, but I know there's kind of a charitable component as well. Is that centralized? Do you know numbers on what the project has been able to raise so far, or is that sort of each individual brewery kind of decides how they want to participate financially?
Yeah, I think it's closer to the second thing that you mentioned. I don't have exact numbers. Some breweries are donating a certain percentage of their proceeds to a local mental health organization. Some are giving all proceeds to Hope for the Day. We didn't want to make that be a sticking point because we know that when we started this, it was a current pandemic world, but in a hopefully soon post-pandemic world, we know that people are having a hard time, just simply being able to turn a buck. So the idea was to be able to give some significant discounts on the ingredients, allow breweries to participate, give them as much, social media assets and text and label templates, and give them as much help as possible. Blue Label packaging hopped in and provided free labels for a lot of the breweries. All they had to do was pay for shipping. American Canning stepped up with a general Crowler design and some really cool discounts there too. So the idea was to allow breweries to make money, and then if they so chose, they could throw some cash to a local organization or to Hope for the Day. But the dollars and cents weren't as important as the eyes, the ears, and the mouth actually looking at, touching this, and then talking about the beer itself.
That's awesome. And you said there's, at this point, over 200 brewery participants?
We know officially there's like 190 something, but I found out that Goose Island in Chicago brewed one, and they never even told me. I'm like, damn it.
Wow.
So Goose Island brewed one, and then there's one in Michigan called the Mitten that they didn't register, so they didn't use like a label template. But we tried to be as welcoming as possible. The thing that we wanted to do is make sure that if somebody was going to join us, that they had like this, that, and the other thing. So we're thankful that people are starting conversations about this. So whether or not they're actually officially on the list or not, if you see a Things We Don't Say beer on tap or at your local bottle shop, grab it, because that brewery gives a shit.
That's awesome. So Jake, coming back to you, when Nicole connected you with Joel, kind of what were your thoughts about the idea, and why did you decide to get involved in the way that she had suggested, or why'd you take the conversation? What compelled you?
Yeah. So when Nicole first reached out, definitely it felt like an honor. That was for sure. To be asked to be part of something that we saw so much potential in, as far as doing the right thing, especially coming out the back end of a pandemic when a lot of us in our industry had such a tough year, and even outside of our industry wasn't easy for most. So if we could have even the smallest impact in any way, we were going to jump at that opportunity.
That's awesome. And so what did that look like in its first year? I know there is a recipe that gets brewed, and I was curious, like, is that something you developed, or is that something that is the same every year? I guess those are two different questions, so I'll leave you with those two questions.
So our goal this first year was to kind of come out with, well, first of all, we settled on we wanted to do an IPA, something that was achievable no matter what type of equipment you had as a brewery. The whole goal is to get as many people in on this as possible and not have any hurdles, make it as easy as possible. So then from there,
Why does Milwaukee internet hate him? He's so nice.
Cool.
So I asked for a low ABV IPA because as the resident old man, Jake, he's back.
You're back. You froze again.
I'm keeping you on your toes.
Yeah.
Thank God you're back.
Right up there.
Go, Jake. Keep going. So you developed the recipe. You wanted it to be accessible, get everybody involved. Go.
Yeah. So we started with a hazy IPA, pretty popular style right now that we knew people were able to get it in the most hands as possible. We kept the recipe pretty simple because the whole idea was to kind of give every brewery their own creative platform to express what they do really well. And turns out when you have 200 breweries working on the same recipe, some pretty cool things come out.
Yeah, I saw somebody said in the comments that they were drinking Energy City's version. I'm hearing a lot about Energy City lately. I know nothing about it.
They're ridiculous. So it's David and Heidi File, Batavia, Illinois, or as the locals call it, Batavia, Illinois. So it's David and Heidi Files, and David's like an engineer, and he does really, really weird shit, and it ends up just being incredible. Like they've got this bistro series where whatever fruit or dessert is on the can, you smell it and you're like, you're kidding me. It actually smells and tastes exactly like that. But they do some really, really cool IPAs. They did one with pomegranate in it. So I still haven't had it, but one of my friends in Arizona says, hey, look, I got Energy City in Arizona, and you haven't even gotten it in the Batavia area. So super cool freaking group of people, but their beers have just been fucking crushing it.
Cool. Well, I got to check them out because that sounds right up my alley. I want you ever see Willy Wonka and they lick the wallpaper?
Yeah.
I think we should be a lickable wallpaper, and you can lick the can, and the snozberry will taste like snozberry.
Like snozberries. Jake, are you writing this down?
Yeah,
taking notes.
Font of ideas over here.
Yes.
Yes. So So Jake, was the recipe that got developed in that first year the same recipe that's used year over year, or is it a new recipe every year?
To be honest, I talked with Joel before this happy hour, and we've been so busy with all the success this project has had that we haven't had much time to think forward. So we're kind of taking things one step at a time here.
Cool. So, you mentioned, wait, so sorry, the recipe, when did the program start?
When did we start kind of working on
We had
things,
our
Joel?
first conversation right around Christmas or New Year's, and then we had I had COVID, and we did the education in the beginning of January, and then we went public right before Valentine's Day. And when we went public, I think we already had 39 of them.
Oh my gosh, with 200 breweries. I thought this had been like a thing. I thought it had been like a couple years. You started this like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
What do I know?
We launched it was right before Valentine's Day. Yeah. And that was the thing too, is that our hope was to get 12, like an even dozen, thinking like mostly Midwest. I mean, I could probably peer pressure a number of my friends who own breweries to brew something, simply because I got pictures of you without your shirt on, right. Or wearing, malt bags and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I'm not really into blackmail. So this was something where we kind of put it out there, and Nicole's like, let me talk to the guys from Eagle Park. And it was like a 10-minute, I'll call you back. And then she called me back. It's like, they're in. Like,
cool.
Okay, cool. So thus started the conversations. How do we go about this? And a big deal for me was, how do you portray the intent of the program without getting it muddled up in like design and all that other stuff. And my partner in Hop Smash, Ryan, also has something called Ego Proof, which is his specific art project, like right down the lane of like no parking signs. And his particular art experiment has always kind of caught my eye, because there's always been red on white or white on red, like very, very specific, small little sayings that are meant to be intentional. And when I had hit him and his wife, Ange, about, hey, I want to do this. We have a brewery, but I want this to not look like anything that Hope for the Day has ever done, because most of the things that Hope for the Day has done has been like, oh, we tag on to somebody else's project and just kind of help talk about the conversation around mental health. This is something where I thought, if we're going to do this the right way, it should be a little bit more forward than the Black is Beautiful label, but we want people to touch the can and actually turn it around. So the intent of the artwork, it says things we don't say. And underneath it was a tagline called Craft Beer for Mental Health, because this is essentially the craft beer industry talking about mental health and all the things that go along with it. In a couple different states, some TTB inspectors thought that meant that it was prescriptive, meaning that this beer is for your mental health. So we kind of removed that tagline from some of the can art. But we wanted people to actually pick up the can, see the title of it, see the crest or the logo of the brewery who brewed it, and then turn it around, because it didn't tell you what type of beer it was. It didn't tell you the ABV. It didn't tell you anything else. And once you turn it around in small letters towards the top, it says Hazy IPA, 6%. Then you see it's, Eagle Park, Malt Europe, Holland Bearing and Sons hops, Hope for the Day, Ego Proof, and Hop Smash doing this one thing. But then on the other side, we have an entire list of all of the vetted national mental health resources available in the United States of America, as well as a QR code that points people back, to Hope for the Day's website, where we have our Find Help section, which we call our resource compass. And anybody in the US can type in their zip code, and it gives you essentially the laundry list of every vetted social service in your area, including mental health resources. So like I was telling you before, I think the hardest thing outside of starting the conversation is, what do you do when you know that shit sucks and you just want to talk to somebody?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to go find a counselor and you Google find a counselor, your day's ruined, because not only are you going to get confused, but everybody who shows up top on your list paid to be there. Yeah. So our resource compass, you basically type in, all right, this is my age, this is my language, this is my location, these are my needs, and it takes away all the results that simply don't apply to you. So rather than searching for something and being sold something, we're actually giving people access to a list of vetted mental health resources in their community. It's not going to be like Jake and Joel's Highway Mental Health, where you pull in and we give you some Boone's Farm and we smoke Pall Malls. It's going to be like actual mental health resources, like legitimate shit. So that was important. Like, how do you bring people into the conversation without scaring them away? Well, you give them a delicious beer from a brewery like Eagle Park, and they're going to drink it either way. But if you want to get them to actually touch it and turn it around, you have to give them as least amount of information as possible so that they are curious. And that's why I think the resources on the one side of the can have been so impactful, because people are saying, why are you putting a substance abuse helpline on a can of beer? How come every casino I go into, it says, if you or your loved one has a problem with gambling, but they don't do that shit for beer? Like, people in the craft beer industry and people who drink craft beer don't have problems. So it felt like a common sense marriage of problem, potential solution. Because one thing I think everybody in the craft beer industry is aware of is that we've all had some really, really rough experiences with alcohol. And the adult thing to do is to go, maybe I should slow down a little bit. Or like for me, I don't technically drink during the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I line up all the beers that I'm going to drink Friday, Saturday, Sunday in my beer fridge. And I get ready for them. So it's like, I have my approach. It doesn't always work. Sometimes the day is shit and I reach for something else, but I have to be aware and I have to be adult about the conversation. So a lot of people that were pissed off about the idea of talking about mental health with a beer in your hand saw it for you're just trying to sell more beer. No, they were going to sell beer anyway. How do you get people in the industry, not just the people buying it, but the people brewing it? How do you get them to stop and talk about mental health? But then also, hope for the day, what we do, we're an education organization. So what we did over the course of the last 3 months is we provided, I think it was 11 different education sessions. And Jake sat through one himself in the early part of January, just so that everybody understood this is what we do and this is what we talk about and this is how we talk about it. Because we want everybody to talk about the shit that's going on in their life. It doesn't have to be on Facebook or on social media, but you should be getting these things off of your chest so we don't start piling up. And that's when we enter into that crisis stage, and we want to avoid that shit entirely.
Yeah, it's interesting, being in the beer industry and traveling around to festivals and meeting different people. I think it's really easy to only think about the fun side of beer. And when you're at a brewery, especially one like, Eagle Park that is so community oriented, it is really easy to get caught up in that. You don't really think about the other side of this, where especially in an alcoholic beverage industry, there probably are a lot of people who are struggling or have struggled with different mental health issues. I think to pair these two things is natural. And once you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So kudos to both of you.
Cool.
Yeah. So Jake, it makes so much more sense now why you've been so busy and haven't thought to the next recipe. But is this going to be an annual thing, are you thinking? Or is it going to be something you want to do more than once every year? Or have you thought about the cadence for this program?
I don't think we've thought about it at all, at least collectively. But that being said, working with Joel and the team at Hope for the Day and everyone else involved with this project, we'll definitely be working more together in some form in the future, but who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, beard oil and lickable beer cans are the two things at the top of the list.
There you go.
Yeah, which are two pretty good things if you're talking about essentials. Yeah. So I forgot to say at the beginning, if anybody who's watching has a question, you're welcome to drop it in the comments. I'll pull it up on screen. Otherwise, I'll keep asking my questions because I'm interested and this is fun.
Hell yeah.
So Joel, I know this is an initiative that is specific to the beer industry, but as part of Hope for the Day, do you see this relating to other industries, or are there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like who else has done something? If you can think of any off the top of your head, like another industry that has done something really powerful that the beer industry might be able to learn from, or vice versa.
So last September for Suicide Prevention Month is in September. I contacted 19 of my friends around the Chicagoland area and Des Moines, Iowa. Barntown Brewing joined us. And we had something called Smash the Stigma, where we were going to put one thing on everybody's menu, provide all those restaurants with resources, resource cards, wristbands, stickers, pins, whatnot, and ask that over the course of one weekend to pick an item on the menu and then advertise it and then bring up the topic of mental health and suicide prevention with Hope for the Day. And we kind of did, it was a smaller version of what this beer project has turned into, but it was more geared towards a specific like weekend. And we had 19 different restaurants and breweries around the Chicagoland area that did that. And finding that, you know, a lot of people struggle with the ins and outs of social media and how to get things to actually, you know, organically be seen by everyone. And when you realize that all you really have to do is partner with a few other people in your industry to all kind of agree, all right, we're going to have the same type of methodology. We're going to share each other's stuff, repost each other's stuff, like, comment, all that stuff. We took a small group of restaurants and breweries to talk about mental health and suicide prevention. And yeah, we raised a whole bunch of money, but the conversations that came out of smashing the stigma was incredible. And then towards the end of the month, 18th Street Brewery in Gary actually dropped a beer called Smash the Stigma, which was a Berliner with blueberry and yuzu, which I actually had my first sampling of yuzu by itself, and I'm still recovering.
Was it good or was it weird?
You know the thing back here, like when you drink something or taste something like really, really tart and it like sucks in, like mine are still swollen, and it was from literally like a cat full of that shit. Wow. So, but I actually really, really enjoyed the beer, and I do have a fear of blueberries, but this was something that was actually quite crushable. So it was cool to see these restaurants say, yeah, we're going to get involved. And then we helped them kind of, it's the same way we did it with the, with this particular project, where Hope for the Day gave them co-branded resource designs that they could share on their social medias, which essentially tells people a story of how do you be supportive to somebody who might, you know, be needing you to be, you know, to be able to lend an ear to somebody. How do you be supportive? Because it's not like we have to be counselors or therapists to not be a dick. So it was something where when you're trying to talk about mental health, you get this weird idea that, oh, it's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and we're going to be corny and campy and cheesy. It's like, nah, I had a shitty day, or hey, yesterday was awesome. You know why? Nothing went wrong. Wasn't great, wasn't horrible, but nothing went horribly wrong. That was great. Let's do that again. That's mental health. So once we start kind of punching that stigma in the can, we start to realize that simply talking about the shit that you've experienced is half the battle. But once you realize that you're already doing stuff for yourself, that it's beneficial to your mental health. Like for me, I shave my beautiful shiny dome every morning, and I take that extra 15 minutes to look this shiny. And that's part of my mental health. Like if I don't do it, I kind of feel like a slob. Like this is some trim and tidy shit, right, Jake? Jealous? So it's, so keeping people aware of the fact that we're already doing things for our mental health. It doesn't have to be bath bombs and goat yoga and, you know, all the strange kung fu stuff that Jake's been practicing lately. But I mean, if it's good for you, it's good for you, and it makes you feel good. So that kind of brings you to the other part of the conversation, that if you're using beer, alcohol, weed, like I smoke weed to kind of turn my brain off at night. I have a medical card in the state of Illinois because it's legal. But when those things that you do to kind of bring yourself back down to your baseline, when they start becoming something that's negatively impacting your life, now you have to kind of reevaluate. Like, is this really worth me investing this much time, energy, and money into something that's making my life worse? And that's something that I think the craft beer industry is, you're adult enough to say, hey, I'm going to take a week off. Or like for me, I do Sober October. I shed like 20 pounds and I look amazing. And then I wait for Halloween evening and I jump back in. But I know what's good for me and what's not good for me. And it's just being aware of that and trying to maintain that balance that I think is one of the overarching goals of this project, without actually saying, hey, what's your relationship with alcohol like?
Sure. Yeah, I think we could always benefit from reminders that, you know, it's not sometimes easy to know when you're struggling. Sometimes it's obvious, and then other times it sneaks up on you. So I think this is cool, just putting it in a place where a lot of people, well, certainly in our community, are going to see it, right? Like they're reaching for the beer anyway. It's right there. So that's awesome. Jake, we had an awesome question for you come in through the comments. So for the base recipe, what prompted you to use the ingredients that you used for the original recipe?
Yeah, so basically with the partnership of Malt Europe and Hollenberg and Sons hops, we wanted to, well, both of them wanted to offer a discount to all the participating breweries. So we kind of got a list of ingredients from both of them that would work within that model. And then we kind of worked backwards into turning that into a viable recipe.
What in your version? I mean, what is it? What are we getting? What notes are we getting? What can you say about it?
Yeah, so pretty standard sessionable hazy IPA, a little bit on the lighter side. Ours definitely, well, the base recipe definitely highlights a lot of those like citrus pithy kind of notes. Definitely stuff that's more approachable in hop profile, nothing too crazy that we have the privilege of working with nowadays with some hops. But we wanted to keep it pretty close to the vest and approachable for most people.
That's awesome. Joel, you mentioned the importance of starting conversations, right? And I think it's tough, man. When I go on the internet or communicate with friends, usually through the internet, because everybody's been stuck in their house for the last year and a half. It's not only been difficult to reach people like on a good day, but I feel like, and maybe this is just my perception, but I feel like we live in a very polarized time, right? Where every day there seems to be a lot of disagreement, and it seems to be very public and very loud. And so I'm putting you on the spot here, but I feel like you're going to have a good answer. But how can we like break through that? I mean, we have things that are so important to talk about. We've been doing it for the last half hour, and I feel like a lot of the communication real estate or the channels of communication are just clogged by all of this shit.
Rage. Yeah. I think once you realize, like, I don't know if you guys have watched Bo Burnham Inside yet on Netflix. If you have not, holy shit.
My gosh. It was awesome.
Jake, did you watch it yet?
Oh yeah.
Can I interest you in everything all of the time?
All of the time. So This is something that I've actually been applying to my life for the last 8 years. So on May 11th, I just ended my second term as an elected official here in Yorkville, Illinois. So it was 8 fucking years as an alderman where people expected me to have an opinion about everything. And when I said something like, I don't know anything about it, they would be like, oh, how do you not know? I'm like, you do realize that my son tells me about every single weapon attachment that he puts onto his freaking gun in a video game. And I want to remember that shit because it's important to him. So if I don't understand how deep the ruts in your freaking street are, forgive me. So I learned very, very quickly that I don't have to know everything. I don't have to have a fucking opinion on everything. But more importantly, I have a choice on who I engage with. So I made it a point in my life to be more of a contributor by sharing what makes me giggle than trying to get on the all caps train. Like, you son of a bitch, you racist, whatever. I don't need to put that type of shit in my life. So I think it has a lot to do with being aware of the fact that you're being sucked into something, but then choosing how are you going to participate. So like, that's why I like my Hop Smash stuff, because I get to just make up shit about beer that's totally wrong, but it makes me laugh at the time. Like, I genuinely enjoy. There's this brewery out here in St. Charles, Illinois called Riverlands, and their logo is it reminds me of like a 90s teen drama that I would watch to be on like at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where it's like, oh, Sydney, you stole Kyler's jacket, like super freaking like immature shit. But so I started this narrative that, oh yeah, Riverlands is actually based on a late 90s teen drama. And I run with that because it makes me laugh. So I choose that over fighting with somebody over the murdering of George Floyd in public. Like, yes, granted, I'm wearing a BLM shirt because I believe in the fact that we should be fixing that shit, but I don't engage in conversations with people that don't give a fuck anyway. Nobody on social media has ever changed somebody else's mind, especially a white dude. So there are things that I can do that don't require me to get into the all caps freaking fighting matches with people. But then it's also, if you choose how you're going to engage with social media on the whole, you should be thoughtful and mindful of what you are digesting from media on the whole. So my wife and I only watch like 20, 30 minutes of national news. It's David Muir on ABC when I get home from work. But then every other time we are surrounding ourselves with things that have nothing to do with the things that could ruin a night's sleep subconsciously. So lately it's been House Hunters International, which has been, there's this blatant sexual tension between the realtor and the person who's looking for the property that if you haven't paid attention, there's 137 seasons and like each season has like 10 episodes. So you could watch one going to bed for the rest of your fucking life and never watch the same episode twice. That's how you save your mental health. Stay the fuck out of the choir of bullshit, because all that matters is you taking care of your freaking house. Because once your house is clean, then you clean up your neighborhood. Then when your neighborhood's clean, the other neighborhood goes, damn, this shit's clean. And then they clean up their shit. This is what Jake and I are trying to get started with this Things We Don't Say project. Clean up your shit. You don't have to fix it right away, but be aware of it and talk about the shit, because gradually you will learn from the people who have made huge fucking mistakes how to fix your shit. And I think a lot of it has to do with turning off the noise. So that's an awesome question, but you got me fired up, Ken.
Yeah, that was my intention the whole time. Jake, before you hopped on, he's like, yo, get him fired up. Yeah, I really like that. There's this, so I studied literature, and there's this trope in Gothic literature where the house represents the head, right? And so in like the Castle of Otranto, or, the Turn of the Screw, or these other famous Gothic stories, as the house starts to decay and fall apart, you see the characters start to lose it slowly. And so when you said clean up your house and then clean up your neighborhood, it starts with your house, but it also starts with your house,
Yeah.
And just bringing it back to this project, I think that's why what you're doing to me is so important, right? Because by helping people, you help our community. So yeah, I'm excited. Cool. Well, gentlemen, this has been awesome. If people want to learn more, where do they go? If they want to participate, what do they do? How do people get involved?
Sure. There's our website. Our landing page is at thingswedon'tsay.beer. And that will take you to the Hope for the Day website. If you find yourself at hftd.org, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and click on Things We Don't Say IPA. But also, to get back to that resource compass, on any page on our website, click on Find Help, type in your zip code, and actually start a conversation with somebody who's trained to help. Then if you are looking for the participating breweries, go to that same page, thingswedon'tsay.beer, and we've upgraded our map like 3 or 4 different times. But the new map, wherever you are in the world, if you have location services turned on, it will pick the brewery closest to you. And then what we just asked that people click on those breweries' websites, check out their socials and see when they're releasing it if they haven't already. And then if you are checking in your beers on Untappd, just to make sure that you're selecting the right brewery. Because if you're going to smear somebody's beer, at least smear the right beer. Because we've been seeing some beers that are like brewed in, say, Massachusetts being checked into Illinois, and there's no distro in Illinois. So the guy's like, dude, why am I getting smeared? It's like, that's Yelp for you. So
Well,
it's just
both ways. So, you could also get the 5. Yeah. You made a terrible beer. True.
But we've seen like my bottle shop here in Yorkville is called Flight Bottle Shop and Tasting Room. And I think the other day we had an event with Maplewood out of Chicago, which if you didn't know, I'm a huge fanboy of. That's their Charlatan logo, which is the best APA made in Chicago. I'm a very big Maplewood fan. I'm going to get the Crushinator robot right over here in a a couple of weeks because I'm a fanboy. That's then I get Crushinator and Charlie. Yeah. So, I'm a fanboy. But we had at one time, we didn't crack them all, but I think we had like 37 different versions, including the non-alcoholic version, which is from Wellbeing Brewing in Four Hands, which is called Liquid Rain. Totally different color scheme and design so that nobody makes a mistake and grabs an NA beer or grabs an alcoholic beer when they're avoiding alcohol. But I tried the Liquid Rain a couple times, and my opinions on NA beers have changed so much, like just in the last 2 months. So Wellbeing's Liquid Rain is banging. Like it's a dry hopped Eldorado non-alcoholic beer, and it's fucking good. Like it's disgustingly good. Like my wife actually said, if I took one of these and I paired it with like a pineapple Truly, it would be incredible in the pool. I was like, there we go. We're getting people thinking. But then also they have their regular IPA, delicious. So I'm turning a new corner because I'd rather party all night and have like 7 NA beers and like 4 or 5 alcoholic beers than have 4 or 5 alcoholic beers and be asleep. So, and that's the reason why Jake made it a 6% alcohol beer, because as the token old man in the group, I was like, yo, I fall asleep if we have two. So can we make it low ABV? So it worked out. The shit's delicious. And Jake didn't tell you, but the Eagle Park version of Things We Don't Say is bubblegum on vacation. That's how it tastes.
That's what I was trying to get him to say, but
He wouldn't say it.
You weren't real technical with it, which was appreciated too. So, Jake, if people want to find Eagle Park Brewing and now Distilling, what's the best way to do that? Is it Instagram? Is it coming into the tap room? And if they were to come into the tap room and they wanted a Crispy Boy beer, which one should they order right now?
Yeah, all the major social channels at Eagle Park Brewing or at Eagle Park Distilling, all kind of goes the same place. We're definitely most active on Instagram and Facebook for sure. Both of our tap rooms are open right now, very spacious. If you're still being cautious about COVID, being very friendly to that. And then at our Muskego location, the new one, we have over 40 different options for you to pick from. So definitely something for everyone.
I went to the old one, I think, right?
Yeah, our downtown location.
Yeah, I got to come back. I had a great time the last time I was in Milwaukee. It was right before COVID. It was like one of my last trips before COVID. Milwaukee's a blast.
The Muskego one is gorgeous. Like their tap TV that tells you what shit's on tap. It folds over twice. It's like, hold on. I gotta wait till the beer list comes back because there's so many freaking beers available. That place is like freaking Candyland.
It's extensive.
Joel, I'll see you there.
Hell yeah! You let me know. I would love that.
When we collab brew on lickable wallpaper, that would be sick. Jake, you're in, right?
Oh yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, okay. We'll workshop it. Is there anything else I missed that is important to know before I let you guys go?
Go follow at Hop Smash and at Ego Proof. Make sure you support your local breweries. If you want, follow at Hope for the Day. And then whenever you get a chance, tell somebody that you genuinely appreciate them in any way that you can, which includes high fives and other socially distanced forms of communication. Hell yeah, both.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been a pleasure, and thank you for the work that you are putting in. What a cool interview. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. All right. That was awesome. We had some folks from Ales for ALS last week, 2 weeks ago, on the show. And this week, another awesome initiative. Get involved. Summer's coming. It's the time. Thank you for everyone watching. I'm Kenny Gould, creative director at Untapped, founder of Hop Culture. Check me out on Instagram at Hop Culture Ken. Would love to connect. And that's it. I think next up, we got a Great Notion in the house. My buddy, Uncle Paul, is joining us. So put it on your calendar 2 weeks from today, and we'll see you there. Cheers.